Acts 17:29-34. Therefore, since we are God's offspring, we should not think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image made by human design and skill. In the past, God overlooked such ignorance, but now he commands all people everywhere to repent. For he has set a day when he will judge the world with justice by the man he has appointed. He has given proof of this to everyone by raising him from the dead. When they heard about the resurrection of the dead, some of them sneered, but others said, "We want to hear you again on the subject." At that, Paul left the council. Some of the people became followers of Paul and believed. Among them was Dionysius, a member of the Areopagus, and also a woman named Damaris, and a number of others. Today we'll focus on the word some, which we get here in verse 32 and in verse 34. Of all 30 members of the Areopagus, only one becomes a believer, and that's Dionysius. And one might think, oh, well, that's a failure. Only 1 out of 30. That's not good odds. But it's not a failure, especially in a flock of skeptics. And not only that, Damaris also becomes a Christian, although she's not a member of the Areopagus. She's adjacent to the situation, and we also see a number of others. All in all, in the book of Acts, we get the word some about 122 times. That's the most by far of all the books of the Bible. In Acts 14, we get an example that says some of the Iconians sided with the apostles and others didn't. Also in Acts 17, we have an example of some of the Thessalonians were persuaded by Paul and Silas. You kind of get the idea here. Luke, the author of Acts, emphasizes the fact that not everyone is going to be on board with the good news. This is a running theme in Acts and the New Testament. We can appreciate that the message isn't sugar-coated. 100% of the audience is not going to agree, and in fact, others will be outright opposed. This is the nature of the gospel. It's not just another nice set of self-help saying. It's a controversial, radical, moral platform that informs a way of life. We're reminded of Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, but near the end of 1 Corinthians chapter 9, Paul talks about becoming like certain groups to win those groups over to Christ. To the Jews, to those who are without the law, to those who are weak. And in verse 22, he says, "I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some." This is biblical math. All plus all plus all equals some. All things to all people by all possible means, just to save a few. That means that believers go all out and all in to share the good news with as many as possible, understanding that we might run into the same 1 out of 30 odds or worse as Paul in Athens. But even one is worth it, weren't you?